What's up guys, I'm Finn, this is Treehouse Overland, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be doing a 1-inch body lift on my 06 Toyota Sequoia. Let's take a quick look at the kit. Basically we got 8 Delrin spacers and 8 grade 8 bolts with washers and nylock nuts. Since we're only doing a 1-inch lift guys, we do not need to extend the steering shaft or the fuel filler hose, radiator brackets or anything else. It all looks pretty straightforward, so let's get to work. You don't see too many body lifts on Sequoias, and I'm not sure why. My reason for installing it was simple. I was running a 4-inch suspension lift and my tires were still rubbing the wheel wells a little bit when I flexed it out. I just needed that 1 extra inch to clear those 35s. Now personally guys, I wouldn't do a body lift over 1, maybe 1.5 inches for safety reasons. You're quite literally raising your center of gravity here. And the higher you go, the more involved the installation becomes. Hi, I'm Finn.
And I'm Michael.
And this is the first gen Sequoia body lift. Alright guys, we're just going to start on the driver's side. If you have the factory bumper, it'll need to be removed. There's plenty of videos on YouTube that can show you how to do that. And then we're going to get to this first mount. We've got an impact on the bottom and a crescent on the top, and remove the bolt. First bolt out. So a couple of my body mounts did this. The sleeve came separated from the actual bushing. It didn't seem to matter too much when I put it back together, as long as you remember how it goes. It's just something to look out for. You could always get new body mounts, but I wasn't about to spend that money. I used 4 trays to keep this job organized, 1 for each body mount. It worked well for me. Alright, mount 2 is located under where the driver's feet would be. This little kick panel has a plastic bolt you can undo with your fingers. And you just pull it out. Undo a few staples. Pull that carpet back and pop that plug off. Again, I'm holding it up top. And bolt number 2 is out. On to number 3. Body mount number 3 is directly below the back seat. Go. Once you get the nut off this one, you'll have to turn the bolt clockwise to free it from these locking tabs. Yeah, buddy. Along the way, Michael and I put everything back together just how it was on the truck for easy reference. We also compared the bolts to make sure the new ones were 1 inch longer. Now guys, I have a steel bumper, but if you have the factory bumper, don't worry, you will not have to remove it to get to this last body mount. You will, however, have to pull away this interior quarter trim panel. Mine was already loose, but I will link the page of the factory service manual with instructions on how to do this. You guys, be careful of this stack of washers. It is heavy. It almost hit Michael in the head. Probably would have knocked his ass out.
That fucking slammer almost fucking took me down.
Alright, if you poke that up.
Yeah, I can just hit this one with a finger, eh? Uh-oh.
We lost this bolt, but ended up fishing it out with a magnet. I can't believe these bolts are so small, man. To hold this thing on, it's crazy. Okay, so here we go. From front to back, jack. Everything looks like it came through correctly. So the driver's side is completely unbolted. What we have to do next is take the washers off all these bolts, as we will be reusing them. So we'll head on over to the vise and smash those things off. A few 1/2-inch deep sockets did the trick for us. Give it a whack. I don't know what these are called. What are these things called?
Call whatever you want. It's your channel.
Strap protectors.
Yeah.
Now it's time to remove these splash shields. One of these little trim and molding tools from Harbor Freight works great. All right, so we got this side all opened up. Next, I'm going to loosen the 2 bolts on the steering coupler to allow it to stretch the inch that it needs to stretch. Then I'm going to hit it with some penetrating spray, let it soak in for a while. Hopefully it just pulls apart when we start lifting the body up. If we've taken care of everything, we should just be able to jack this body up and throw those spacers in.
How we doing? Oh, we're just about there. Okay, this one's good.
Alright, first one goes between the body and the body mount. Okay, so we're reusing the factory Toyota washer. And then what's the bottom look like? And then
Something like that.
And then the silver washer.
And then the small washer, like so.
Perfect, let's get her in there.
Rubber piece, big side, goes on the bushing.
It looks like it's grinning or smirking. Now there will be a gap between the bumper and the body, but I'll figure that out later. Not worried about it. And here goes the second one, same as the first one. We had to jack it up a little bit more, but went right in, no problem. And back into the floor using our factory hardware. And just put it together the way you took it apart, basically. And the steering coupler separated on its own, just like I hoped it would. But we'll still have to address it later. So the third one was giving us major trouble. The bolt was just too big for the hole, simple as that. We had to remove the top and bottom mounts on the number 3 and drill them out with a 1/2-inch drill bit. I think we started 1 step below a 1/2 and then went to a 1/2. Get yourself some tappet and just hit it with a 1/2-inch bit.
That's what they all say. I don't have any anti-seize, so I'm putting some grease on there.
All right, give it a tap.
Washer, nut.
You know what you're gonna do.
You know what that is.
Side one complete. Alright, so we're back at bolt number 1. We're trying to torque everything down to spec, and way too many of these threads are exposed. We've run out of thread here. So we needed to find a washer or 2 or 3 to take up some of that slack so we don't strip that bolt out. I'm not sure where these are from, one of my many projects, and we ended up having to do this on a couple more of the bolts. And guys, I had a really hard time finding these torque specs that were not in the factory service manual. What I ended up finding online was a document put out by Toyota that was sent to all the techs at the Toyota dealerships for when they were doing those full frame replacements on these trucks. Something was wrong with the rust preventative from the factory, so a lot of these frames got replaced in that recall. What a gigantic job. I can't imagine how much that must have cost Toyota. Alright, so we're at the last one, and by this time I ran out of washers to use. I don't know really what happened with these bolts, but I put in a sway bar bushing that I had laying around temporarily, and then went ahead and replaced it later on with some washers from the hardware store. And at this point, this back quarter panel was looking kind of rough, but this is where I house all my electronics. I've since cleaned it up quite a bit, but it's a great place for an ARB compressor and some of the other stuff. So now we've got it about equal on top and bottom. If you look at that silver spot versus the brown spot, they're about the same, and I'm okay with that. That looks good to me. So I'm gonna tighten it back up. Stripped out, can't believe it. So I found this out the hard way, but the way the steering coupler is set up is it has little grooves, and you can see it right there. That's where the bolts pass through. When we repositioned it, we had to cut our own grooves into the steering shaft. It came out good, but it was a pain in the ass. If I had to do it again, I probably would have just loosened the bolts, put some penetrating oil, done the body lift, and then came back and just tightened it back up. I would not have removed them. But there's very little material there, so it was real important for me to know that there was an equal amount of material on top and on bottom. It's been about 4 months and it's still going strong. So here's just a quick example of how to remove these back rear quarter panels. Basically, you have these two kind of mushroom caps that you got to remove first. You can do it carefully, or you can do it with a crowbar like me. And then there's a 10mm bolt on the side. And then you just pull the corner back and expose that body mount bolt. Alright guys, that about does it. I only showed one side because the other side's exactly the same. We did run into a little bit of an issue on the other side. The front bolt was really hard to get out, but we ended up getting it. There's also a couple things like the plastic door sills that I didn't show. That's just a few Phillips head screws. You guys can figure that out. If you can't, don't attempt a body lift. This 1-inch body lift did everything I hoped it would. The rubbing from the tires when the suspension cycles is very minimal, if not non-existent. I'm not gonna lie, the center of gravity is higher, and you can feel it when you're going around turns. For those guys who don't run front sway bars, God help you, because I had my sway bars removed and I was working on them, and driving around was a nightmare. It was dangerous. But anyways, I'll give you a quick look at it. So I do have a space between my bumper and the body. I will address that sometime. Same thing on the back. I'll get to it when I get to it. Not too worried about it right now. And yeah, you can see it in some spots if you get close enough. I could have gone black, but what the hell, man? I don't care. I use my truck more than I look at it. As long as it works, I'm fine with it. Plus, I can get at my shocks a whole lot easier, and I was able to put retainers for my rear springs because I had one of those fall out once. So really, it's a win-win-win. I'm happy with it. I don't think I'd go past a 1-inch body lift though, just by the way this thing handles now. So 4-inch suspension, 1-inch body, you're pushing it at that point, but it's all worth it, man. I don't have to listen to those tires grinding against the fenders and the bumper and everything else. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys want to see the full build of this truck, I'll put the link up top. Got some fix-it stuff coming. My wife has an 03 Sequoia. I had to do the rear hatch. I had to do both door latches. I took the catalytic converters off so they wouldn't get stolen in my neighborhood. Polyurethane, steering rack bushing kit. What else? Well, I'm going to replace the sunroofs. So yeah, we got a lot of DIY Sequoia repair videos coming. And thanks so much for all your support. Peace.